July 22nd, Camden Select Board meeting. Our meetings are live streamed at youtube.com/Town of Camden, Maine. And if you wish to participate remotely, you are welcome to do so by clicking the Zoom meeting link that's in our agenda packet. And we will do our best to acknowledge you. You'll come up on the board, just raise your hand and jump around and we'll see you. So we will start with public comment on non-agenda items. Is there anyone here with a non-agenda item? Yes. State your name and residence.
Hi, I'm John Rickson, 28 Harbor Road, and I'd just like to request that my application for a revocable license be put on the agenda for the Select Committee to review.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Anyone else with a non-agenda item?
Amy Lockature, and Janice Kay is with me. I just wanted to brief you guys. Today, we met with, actually yesterday, we met with the bank and we signed the letter for the financial capacity. I also wanted, I was hoping Bill would be here, but Dave, could you pass these papers out? We were supposed to be able to present tonight, and I wanted to show you, we've had some legal work done on the title of the building, and basically you will see that Jim Wickenden of Harmon Jones and Sanford has done a detailed title search of 39 Main Street, and it basically goes through when Wayne and Carolyn Morong sold it to Miss Kay, and then it was sold to Mr. Sadowski, and then refinanced again in 2023. The mortgage was discharged, but under Maine law, on January 17th, when the mortgage matured, Ms. Kay discharged that mortgage, and Mr. Weatherholtz was granted a replacement mortgage to Ms. Kay, book 6069, page 72. On January 17th, 2025, I advised you that Mr. Weatherholtz had recorded a quitclaim deed. This is Jim saying to me, because I was trying to do the purchase and sale. It was a quitclaim deed in lieu of foreclosure, book 6192, page 29. At that time, I spoke with Mrs. Kay's attorney, Susan Thiem, who said that her client had not initiated any foreclosure on Mr. Weatherholtz, that she did not know about the deed and that it was never delivered to her. For that reason, we agreed that recording the deed had not resulted in a valid conveyance. Under Maine law, a valid conveyance of real property requires that the deed, one, be delivered, it be accepted by the grantee, and in this case, there clearly was no delivery to or acceptance by Ms. Kay. Further, to be legally binding in Maine, a transfer by deed in lieu of foreclosure must be pursuant to a written agreement signed by the borrower and the lender, and the subject mortgage must be released in the record. In this case, there was no signed agreement between Mr. Weatherholtz and Ms. Kay. She didn't know about it, and the mortgage was not discharged until April 2nd, which my bank required so we would have a warranty deed. Upon that discharge, all of the elements of acceptance were present, and Ms. Kay had title to the property. Prior to April 2nd, title remained with Mr. Weatherholtz. Ms. Kay then conveyed the property to you by warranty deed April 17th of 2025. That means this dangerous building hearing was on the wrong owner. In addition to that, on January 15th, Bill Kelly, instead of serving and providing due process to the owner, he sent a letter to Ms. Kay. And in the letter, I'm sorry, this is really frustrating. In the letter, he said, I learned yesterday, January 14th of 2025, that you are now the sole owner of 39 Main Street, as you accepted a deed in lieu of foreclosure. Therefore, the town is no longer going to serve Larry Weatherholtz with a notice of hearing. While your interest in the real property has changed from the owner by mortgage deed to an owner by the deed in lieu of foreclosure, the attached notice of hearing serves to advise you of the hearing date. You'll see the discharge of mortgage that I recorded on April 2nd, making Janice Kay the property owner. She then had the right to enter into, by the way, all this time I'm getting structural engineers for $42,000. I'm paying civil engineers. I'm filing with the Army Corps. I've spent over $100,000 jumping through hoops. You will see on March 11th, Janice sent Robbie a text. If you doubt the validity of this, Robbie, I'm back in Maine now and have not received your check. And now you owe me $51.57 for 3 past due payments. You can pay the building taxes separately. I'm not going to include them as I did in the last text, but I feel that since they are past due and I have an obligation to make sure your note is kept up, I asked you for it in the last text. Send your overdue payment overnight so that I don't start the foreclosure. I have not signed anything that says I accept your sneaky deed transfer. I'm really tired of you being so devious. I got to be honest with you. I brought Ms. Kay up here because we've all been through a lot of stress with this. We have tried to do the right thing. We satisfied A through H. I am ready to fix the building. I want to move forward, but I have to have the ability to repair the building. And I think we all did this with the best of intentions, but the pressure of this hearing, I have also found out that the previous owner, Larry Weatherholtz, if you look at this deed in lieu of foreclosure, it was recorded October 23rd, one day before he got the notice of violation threatening him with $5,000 a day fines. He only had 14 days to provide a structural engineering report. He had provided 2 to Jeremy.
So
Two.
I'm gonna
3 minutes,
stop
I
you
know,
right there.
3 minutes. Janice,
Appreciate
would you
it,
like
and
to
we will-
say anything?
I just support Amy. I feel that the town should give her the permits that she's asking for. I don't want to see the building torn down. There's no reason for it. It is in a historic district. I love Camden. I was here for 32 years with my store, and I'd like to see it continue on as a business.
Thank you. Thank you, Janice.
Give each one of them that packet. Each one's around.
Each one?
Yeah. Representing Camden.
And here's, don't they have all this, just approvals.
Daniel.
We voted, I don't understand.
So I
We don't.
feel like this is outside the scope of our public input on non-agenda items. With this volume of material that you're presenting, it is much more appropriate that this be an agenda item. I know I'm going against our formal format, but you are not on the agenda, but you're presenting us with so much information that I really think, in fairness to this board and to the public, that we have an actual agenda item rather than try to interpret what you're presenting.
My name is Kim Tucker. I'm the attorney for the Locatures. I live in Lincolnville. And I've been a member of the bar since 1985 in Florida and in Maine since 1990. I absolutely agree with you. This should be an agenda item. That is why I requested this be made an agenda item. And I only received notice on Thursday, and I've been dealing with the fact that my mother's been in the hospital with very unexpected colon cancer and had surgery last night. So I've spent the day at the hospital. So I do understand what you're saying, but I do owe it to you all to say this. In those documents I gave you, there are 2 things. I am a constitutional lawyer by trade. I spent 17 years as a constitutional lawyer for the state of Florida. I worked on Bush v. Gore. I was on the losing side, but then again, we are all. So I asked a real property lawyer to do this assessment for you because I wanted you to have the confidence that it's not a lawyer that plays a real property lawyer on TV. It's a real property lawyer that is here from Camden. And what he says is that at the time that you all initiated this, not by any fault of your own, you did not have the owner here. And the fundamental issue under the 14th and 4th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and Article 1, Section 6A of the Maine Constitution, what is paramount is that the owners of the property be given due process. I think that the reason that they did not get notice, the prior owners, meaning Larry Weatherholtz, is because Jeremy didn't want him there. And the reason I said, no, I have to say this. Jeremy didn't want him there because attached to your documents I gave you is the A.E. Hodgson report that was given to the town in August.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to stop there.
Okay.
Because I think you are disparaging a member of town staff. He is not here to defend himself. This is not an agenda item, and I am completely willing to have the hearing that this is, that you are entitled to. This is not the time or place for it, and I'm going to beg your.
I appreciate that, and the only thing I would ask, Madam Chairman, is that we, when we have that, it be at the next meeting, and if possible, and also, because we want to proceed with these repairs, but also I would request that Jeremy be there, that Joshua Croft and McDonald be there, because they have a right to cross-examine those people. So I will give you a list of some people that I think need to be there and placed under oath.
My
Thank you.
understanding is you have all the approvals that you need. This is why we need to have Bill Kelly here to explain this to us, because my understanding is that all of that is already in place. We all voted yes. I understand you've submitted a letter of credit and
Bills.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll look at that.
I don't think we really want to get into.
I
trying to
totally-
discuss this at any level right now.
I will address them when we actually have the hearing. I will start with that answer to your question, why we feel we need that. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Whose phone? Any other non-agenda items?
Molly's iPad is,
Did she want to be recognized?
I think she wants to be let into the meeting.
Oh, okay. She's there. Okay.
Actually, Jeremy Martin is actually here now. It's not that
Right,
he's not
but we're
here.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
If
we're
it
gonna-
doesn't count that they're online,
Stick
They
to,
were, but it wasn't an item to, so.
okay. Let's move on. The approval of minutes.
Could I
from-
just
yes.
ask a question about the agenda
please.
itself? I would propose that we move the discussion of the Montessori school up on the agenda. Ms. Nixon has been here several times and waited till the bitter end of some very long meetings.
Mhm.
And it might be nice to
Yeah,
bump that one up.
I'm completely in agreement. Should we move it up ahead of the Sagamore Farm? Well, we've got a consultant from Sagamore Farm on, the best place for that would be,
I think
what do you think?
I was thinking we could do it before Sagamore, but that
I'm
may
fine
be
with that. I'm fine with that. Okay. So we'll put it in as after the town manager's report, and then we'll do Sagamore after that. Okay, consent, approval of the minutes from the July 8th meeting. Any additions, corrections, deletions?
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second,
Second?
any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Wonderful, thank you. Consent agenda, we've got a consideration of the renewal of victualler and lodging licenses for the following businesses: Camden Island, Camden Mainstay Inn, and Zoot Coffee. And if we have no objection,
Just, I think in general, on the actual agenda, it should also say the names of those businesses that are going to be part of the consent agenda, but I have
okay.
no issue.
All right, moving right along, we have a public hearing for a new special amusement permit for live entertainment at 8 Bells at 45 Mechanic Street. And it appears that all of the inspections and permits have been completed to the satisfaction of the police and fire Application is in order. They're going to have traditional music, probably acoustic music within the space. And he did explain to us, Tom explained to us that they had gone to great lengths to soundproof the downstairs space so that the tenants upstairs are aware of it. So is there anyone here speaking in favor of this article? Anyone opposed? Seeing none. Anyone on the board wish to address this?
I just think that this used to be our boisterous, noisy
I know,
district,
let's make
very
some
close to the
noise.
smokestack. And at some point, I'd really like to revisit the noise ordinance and the town-wide 11 p.m. shut off that really in the downtown business district, or maybe for places with special amusement
You want
permits.
more noise, longer?
I do. I think it's important for Camden's vitality in the long run, but I'm very glad to see that this establishment is doing their best, and I would
Yeah, I think it's
urge them to be loud and boisterous within
looks
reason.
beautiful. So do you want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the special amusement permit for live entertainment at 8 Bells located at 485 Mechanic Street.
Second? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay. We are moving right along. Select Board reports. I have something to report in light of our just pursuant to the discussion that we just had regarding the ongoing proceedings for the dangerous building hearing process for 39 Main Street. The Select Board members did receive a request to reopen the matter and essentially put aside all of the Select Board substantive findings and conclusions as stated in the 3 orders that have been issued. The 3rd interim order adopted the exact remediation plan as filed by the locateurs under recommendations from their engineer and contractors. The 3rd interim order also adopted the locateurs' requested timeframe for completion. Therefore, as chair and the person who makes procedural decisions regarding agenda setting, I found no reasonable basis in the filing that supports reopening the hearing, and therefore declined to add the request to the agenda this evening. But the filing will be part of the record. And now we've got a lot of new information, so I guess we will be revisiting some articles, some details in our next meetings. But as far as that settlement proposal that we received, that is not, we're not pursuing that.
We're not pursuing that tonight, or we're not bringing it up during the hearing, or did you address that
It's,
at all?
we're not pursuing it. It's, we are, the interim order that was agreed to is what stands, is where we are. It's our position. But we can talk with Bill Kelly about that further. But it's not on the agenda, but that's why it's not on the agenda.
You mentioned that it's closed. I don't believe the hearing is closed. And I
It is
actually,
not. The
because I
hearing is
asked
not
Bill
closed.
for a
Yeah,
clarification
the hearing
on
is
that.
not closed.
So when did it open? March? I think,
I think our first,
I would
Was-
really like, I'm not at all prepared for this conversation. I would really like to
Yeah.
have an up-to-date briefing from Bill Kelly. I would really prefer to not have to
'Cause-
revisit this, but I just, if we do revisit it, I want all the information, and I don't think we should be talking about it until then, so.
I was
well,
even
we
gonna-
weren't, that's what I was just going, that's where I was going for
But
just
I
a
was
quick
even-
second before I was interrupted.
okay.
My
Sorry.
question
Hot under
was,
collar.
when did it start? And it's still the case that it is ongoing, because it's an interim still? And that from what date were we not supposed to do our own research or communicate outside of the board? I think that was March, right?
I just think this is too detailed.
No, that's a question. It's a date. It's March that we weren't supposed to communicate. Am I correct? I think so.
Mhm.
I don't
I
know.
can help if you like.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, we started the hearings in February,
Okay, February.
and you are still in this process. The process is an unusual one in that because of the issuance of your orders, you have engaged in a very detailed process of seeking more information and a lot almost a substantial portion, if not most, of your time has been understanding how to address the remedy. The information you sought was all to help you understand what you might order in terms of remediation. That's what you've done. And then it resulted in the interim order, the third interim order, which is, as it says, an interim order. You are not done yet. You have not engaged in an order that we see, that I've seen several times, where you would have ordered the town's role in a consequential way to say what you were going to do if something else does not occur, meaning remediation by the owner. So I think this is the definition of a collaborative process, and the owners submitted the information, submitted their own repair, both by engineering and contractors' filings. So maybe the best way I can explain this is this: if the owners fail to proceed to do the repair, the matter is still before you. And then at that time, you would take such steps as you felt you would need to complete the repairs. But as this is a collaborative process, the owner is proceeding with their own engineers and their own contractors. And of course, you have agreed to that. So you are not done with the process because it's not completed yet. If it is completed based on your prior order, then there'll be a certificate of completion filed. And for all practical purposes, then you will be done. Although what will happen is you'll have some kind of a meeting to conclude the hearing formally. But since it hasn't been performed and it hasn't been inspected as being complete, you still have jurisdiction. And yes, you are all still fact finders, you're quasi judges, and therefore you should not be discussing this outside of the select board because you may have to make further findings and engage the property. So hopefully that answers the question, Chris, but that's where you are.
Thank you, Bill. That was the quick question. The other piece then is, when is a final order issued instead of an interim order?
When the work is done.
No, that's a completion certificate. When is the final order done?
I think it'll basically be about the same time. That's true. The completion certificate is from the planning office, but your final order to dispose of this, I suspect, will happen shortly after that. Because there won't be anything else to entertain.
Have we received all of the information that's been provided concerning this thing? Is there anything we haven't been provided? As a board, is there anything we have not yet been provided?
I'm not aware of anything that you require to be produced.
We're fine, Anita.
The last document, as I informed you all, shared with the locateurs and their attorney and the bank, was the letter of credit, which is now in place. So I think that as far as I understand, as I've said this to them today, I believe that they're in order to get their permits at this point in time.
But I just have a quick question. We were handed a bunch of materials from the locateurs at this meeting. Should we not engage with that until?
Good question.
Or, I mean, if we are going to be, we're going to be revisiting this at the next meeting or at a soon meeting when we will be discussing all of these things and all the material that they want to present, should we basically ignore what they gave us today until that time?
Why are we automatically going to be having everything that they present at a meeting?
I'm asking as a process question on,
Yeah.
like, this is something that
That's
is,
a
that
good question.
we shouldn't really be talking about now, and we're going to be talking about it at the next meeting. But we want to make sure that all of our procedural Ts and
Right.
have been crossed, and
But why are we committing to talking about it in the next meeting
We
unless Bill
haven't.
decides
We
to?
haven't.
we haven't yet, but
We
it seems
haven't.
likely.
But
So
the
in the
material-
meantime,
Lots of people want things on the agenda
Yeah.
and we
Good
don't.
question, though, in terms of what we were given by the locateurs attorney. Should we not engage with that?
Yeah, so folks, it's your hearing, it's your process. As I've indicated to the attorney for the locateurs, motions, issues, challenges needs to be done in public in the hearings. And this sort of ambush thing of just showing up and handing you papers when it's not an agenda item is not okay. You're not actually in the hearing. It hasn't been identified as a hearing and an agenda item, and people given notice of that. So yes, my perspective on this is you should gather those materials up. And after this meeting, I'll meet with Susan, the chair, and talk about, I don't even know what it is because I wasn't provided a copy by email or otherwise. if there's something else going. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
So I can't really comment other than to say, you set the agenda, someone coming up and handing you a piece of paper does not set the agenda.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, any other select board reports?
Yes.
Thank you.
The library has opened what they're calling Art in the Stacks, which is this year's replacement, I suppose, for Camden on Canvas, which has been one of their most successful fundraisers, where artists, you see them around Camden in real time painting scenes. Last year wasn't quite as successful for them in terms of a fundraiser. I think what they determined is that there were a lot of really large paintings, and a lot of the local buyers have become saturated on large paintings and wall space. And so they're doing something a little different this year, which is an online auction. It's a 2-week silent auction. It started on July 20th. It will go until August 3rd, and they've gotten 30 well-known artists to display. All of their work is displayed at the library, and they're focusing on sort of like small and medium sizes this year. So hopefully more people have opportunities for wall space for that. So it's it's also not just paintings, there's some photography. And then on Sunday, August 3rd from 4 to 6 p.m. will be like the culmination, a reception. And that would be a fun event to attend. And the Camden Rockport Pathways Committee, there does continue to be a lot of discussion, not just on the Pathways Committee, but Mountain Street. And speaking of things that we need to address in the future, traffic calming, speed limits, things like that. But also there's Camden is part of a 5-town regional grant organized by the Mid-Coast Council of Governments through MDOT Safer Streets for All. And that's an application that went in that Jeremy's been helping with. So hopefully we might get that and have some funds available for some more of this traffic calming stuff. And that's, oh, no, I guess that's it. Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead. Ken.
Yes, the Historic Resources Committee met on the 14th, and they have held 2 successful public workshops to cover the historic preservation ordinance that they're working on, and they will incorporate the feedback from those sessions into their draft. They're targeting June 2026 to get the warrant article on the ballot. They also had a demolition review. The one power that the Historic Resources Committee has is to delay a demolition by 120 days. And this was a review of the application of 7 Dillingham Point. They're actually halfway through that 120-day period, so the question, the time period becomes moot, because it's the clock starts clicking when the application is put in, and that was 60 days ago. So in another 60 days, the 120 days will expire. It's a long way of saying that it's all moot.
That's kind of not
Well,
bad, because the intention is for the Historic Resources Committee to have that conversation and kind of alert.
Well, they did have the conversation. It was a good meeting, and they had a conversation with the representative, Stephen Moore, representing the owners. And the Historic Resources Committee has asked for them to deconstruct, reuse as much of the material as possible, and to archive the property and recognize it as a historic home. So yes, they did have the conversation, which is probably the most important part of the piece. The Historic Resources Committee is also looking for 2 alternate members. So anybody who's interested, take a look at the town website and make the application, or talk to Chris Frieden if you have any questions about that. And if I may move on to the Cemetery Committee met on July 15th. They did have some vandalism up at Mountain View Cemetery, and they're addressing that. They are going to put in a new flagpole not because the flagpole was damaged, because the new flagpole will have the halyards inside, and so you cannot untie the flag from outside. You'll need to have access to the flagpole. And they talked about putting up 1 or 2 game cameras just to see if they're effective, to see if they're necessary. It's the vandalism is, that level of vandalism is pretty rare, but they're taking steps to address that. They also have a new GIS interactive map, so you can find what you're looking for in the cemetery. When I was at the library, people would come in, and my resource was a 3-page, 8.5 by 11, and we'd have to lay this map out, and it was always confusing where Mountain Street was.
Oh, yeah.
So this interactive map should help a great deal. It's not live to the public yet, but the members of the committee are reviewing it. If you folks are interested in reviewing it, let me know and I can send you the link. Okay.
That's great.
That is cool.
And otherwise, they just covered a lot of regular maintenance items in the cemetery. Thank you.
I just want to say, pursuant to that, a representative of the Legion brought the vandalism up at Rotary the other day. And the extent of it is more profound than just the removal of the flags. It's the removal of the markers that the flags go into. And I walk through there often. It's in my neighborhood. And I was noticing it's those little round metal markers, and they denote which conflict the veteran served in. And I saw several that were Civil War. There are very few of them left. So whoever committed this act took those markers, which, if they are recovered, it's an incredibly valuable piece of Camden history that has been desecrated. In my opinion, it's really quite tragic. If they are turned up, or if anybody has information about where they might be, I know the Legion members are just beside themselves, and recovering the value of that historic resource to the town would mean the world. But I was taken aback as I was walking through and saying, oh, we have got Civil War veterans here, Korean War, and they've all had that honor of those markers. So the extent of the loss is not insignificant. Hopefully it can be remedied. I don't know, but thank you, Ken.
Can I just say real quick about the
Please.
cemetery too? It had been a little while since I'd walked through there, and it is just looking incredible. They've
gorgeous.
put so much work into cleaning the stones. If you've ever gone through there and tried really hard to read, a lot of the stones now, they look like they could have gone in there yesterday, and they're from the early 1800s, and you can read it for the first time, and it's really quite magical to walk through there. And I think, the more Camden residents do that, the more we'll be also quick to notice if things go missing and things like that. But just like real props to the cemetery committee, Ken, because they have, I don't even know how
They're doing a section at it per
it
year.
looks so good. It's amazing. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Chris?
Yes.
Chris?
Yeah,
Chris
and
and Chris?
on that, I think what I saw from Jeff Sukeworth was around $3,000 worth of those were removed. And as you mentioned, it's the importance is the designation, and getting that information back somehow. The last piece is on, I was going to bring up about the settlement agreement that didn't make it. And I thank you for doing the write-up that you had prepared. You mentioned in that, and I just wanted to make sure I understood that you said you're going to enter that packet so it's available for the public. Is that what you meant? The packet that we received?
It'll be part of the record of the whole process.
Of the record of the process. So they won't have access to it yet, or public will or not, I don't know. But the town manager also has a requirement to let the select board of no potential legal and reputational items that affect the town. And this seems like it would be one of them.
Chris,
That's all I
Yep,
kind of have.
thank you.
I was just going to mention that with me now being here and at least one other member moving out of town, the planning board is going to have at least 2 absences currently. So anyone interested, or if we know of anyone who might be good for the planning board, we need to get those spots filled.
Great, thank you. So we'll take those up in August, the committee appointments.
The person leaving an alternate or a primary? You're on, yeah.
It's actually, there's possibly one of each, because one person who was recently made an alternate is moving, and one person who's on the board is also moving, or has moved.
Okay, thank you all. Town managers report. Holly, thank you.
Okay, so we've got quite a bit of work going on between Public Works and wastewater that I'll try to get through this pretty quickly. But at the outset, I've scheduled several text alerts for the upcoming next few weeks regarding some road closures that are prompted by projects to reclaim, grade, and then pave these roads. Anyone who would like to receive text alerts about general notifications and other things can text Camden General to 91896. And there's also a link to for more information on the town's website, camdenmaine.gov. And if you go to the bottom of the page and click the information for Text My Gov, it's a handy way to be able to know when things like this are happening. So the most important one right now is on Thursday, this Thursday, the 24th, Wiley Road is going to be closed for milling work. And then it's going to be closed again on Monday, July 28th for paving. So people should just be aware of that. There's going to be some upcoming road closures to Gould Street for similar kind of work the beginning of August. And then again in the middle of August for Gould Street when they're going to be installing the sidewalk curbing, doing the sidewalk curbing installation work. Overall, the Gould Street project remains on schedule, and based on a report that I gave 2 weeks ago, I'm thinking that it might be slightly ahead of schedule with where they are right now. There was a meeting this morning here in this building regarding the new HVAC system for this building. That is scheduled to be installed sometime in October. They're currently reviewing the system placement and control locations. It's a heat pump type unit, and it's going to be replacing the outdated refrigeration units, 2 of which are no longer working. Wastewater staff continue to work with codes to determine the ages of people's private septic systems on Molyneux Road to determine the remaining life expectancies of current systems. And this data is going to be used to inform us of who will be required to connect to the new line that is going to be installed on Molyneux Road. We've been conducting interviews, I should say Dave and crew have been conducting interviews for the wastewater treatment plant operator's position that's opening up due to a retirement, and they received 60 applications for the position. So they're weeding through that right now to find the best candidates. On Tuesday, July 29th, they'll be opening up the sewer pipelining bids. So I should have some more information for you back at your next meeting on the results of that. The start of construction on Molyneux Road is again also going to require some road detours around the second week in August, and we'll get more details on that. The 2 600 plow trucks have been ordered and are due to arrive in October, after which they've got to be outfitted with some additional equipment, and they should be in service in December in time for winter weather. There is, I found this interesting, thinking about the budget and talking with the library and the repairs that they have to do. Dave and his crew conducted some library camera work on their storm drain system around the area where their roof gutters are tied in, and they found a blockage in one area, and that's going to be jetted and cleared out. And they're still further investigating one other location, utilizing some smoke testing. Eventually, the plan is to remove the stone French drain around the perimeter of the green roof So the contractor can then come in and perform the repair to the area that's been a source of persistent leaking into their office space. So that may be cleared up by Public Works pretty handily. They're still working on lateral inspections on Park Street to determine if anyone else is tied into the stormwater system. Dave reports that this will also determine the depth of the new stormwater system slated to be installed next year. Borings were taken over on John Street recently to determine the depth of the existing ledge to help with the bid spec for the new sewer line and sidewalk project over there. Preliminary findings look like we'll be able to make the sewer line a gravity system with no pump station.
Wow.
This will require removal of a little more ledge, but Dave said it'll be far less expensive to do that than to build a new pump station on for John Street.
That's great news.
Last week, a proposal was put in front of the cemetery committee to put a sidewalk through the cemetery. The current sidewalk ends on Mountain Street, just kind of stops. And this would more safely connect foot traffic on Mountain Street to Gould Street. But unfortunately, that request was denied by the committee. And I tried to watch the video, the meeting, and we're missing that part of the meeting, so I couldn't.
Yeah, I tried to find that too.
Yeah, the camera stopped at about 19 minutes and some seconds. So let's see. And it appears that the DOT, state DOT, is looking at improvements to the shoulder along Route 52. And Dave's going to be meeting with them to discuss their plan. He doesn't know many details about, really any details about how extensive that work is along 52. And what that could mean for us in terms of cost sharing that the state oftentimes looks for those kinds of things. On the Planning and Codes and Development Office side, Clint Beveridge was just named the Mid-Coast Code Enforcement Officers Association 2025 Code Enforcement Officer of the Year. I did a bit of looking into it, and that association was established in 1993. It represents 82 towns on the Mid-Coast and offers professional support to code enforcement officer members, as well as people that are interested in becoming code enforcement officers. They share information and experiences, offer advice on certification credits, etc. So congratulations to Clint on that honor. The fire department recently vetted their own set of numerous applications and have made offers to the 2 successful candidates to fill those 2 full-time positions. So I'd like to welcome Kevin Callahan is the first one. He's a firefighter EMT, and he lives in Appleton with his family. And he also serves on the Appleton Fire Department and Union Ambulance in his spare time. The department also welcomed firefighter Brandon Graffam, who's been an on-call firefighter with Camden since 2020. Brandon's enrolled in the upcoming EMT basic program later this summer. He lives in Union and is a graduate of Camden Hills as well as Husson University. And he also serves with the Union Fire Department where he lives. And then on the call side, Brian Bland, who works full-time at the Snow Bowl and for Parks and Recreation. Recently joined the fire department as an on-call firefighter, and Brian is a 3rd-generation member of the Bland family to serve Camden Fire Department. And finally, just a reminder to everyone that the new finance and clerk's office hours began on Friday, the 11th of July. Monday through Thursday, office hours remain the same, 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., and now on Fridays, the hours are 7:30 to noon. So the office closes, the front door closes. This side is still open, but the front out here closes at noon. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Holly. Okay. Let's go to the lease agreement with Children's House Montessori. Thank you for being here again. So hopefully everyone on the board has had a chance to look over all the material and are prepared with any questions or strategies that you might suggest that might differ from what's in the proposed lease. There's an excellent memo to preface with background. And I'll just entertain questions, comments, direction from the board? Chriso?
I did have a quick question, and yes, thank you for the memo, because I think that answers a lot of the questions. My understanding is that the rent is $20,000 a year to offset painting costs. When the painting is done, does the rent increase? I noticed in the old lease, it was going to be tied to CPI increase, which clearly it never was. So that's my only is.
It was, I think it was. They, what are you paying?
But that's where, so we're back at the 20,000 of that. My question is simply, after the painting work is done, is there an annual increase in rent or?
That is open to discussion. It
Does it
is
remain
not,
at
it's not
20,000?
stated in the current lease as written. There isn't an accelerator in this lease
There is
as
or
there
is
was
not?
in the,
Is
there
not.
is not,
Right.
It stays
There
at
was in the-
20,000 for the term of the lease.
right. And that would, if there were a $100,000 paint job, that would mean 5 years of rent would be applied to that cost. So essentially, we would be absorbing the cost of the paint job for those 5 years, with the rent remaining at the same level.
So just to keep the conversation going on, in the previous lease had a cost of living,
Right.
literally a cost of living allowance,
Yeah.
yes. And without such a thing, 5 or 10 or 15, 20 years from now, the rent, it will still be set at 20,000. So it seems to me we should have some mechanism of some kind in there. The other question is, the reason that you're adjusting this is because the previous version of the lease put all of the capital expenses on you guys, which was nuts. That was unfair. So the owner, us, now owns the capital expenses, and yet the rent has not gone up, although you got on paper the benefit of not having the capital expenses, and yet the rent remains the same. It seemed to me there might be an opportunity to I don't know what it fair is. I don't have any idea what commercial rent rates are, or whether we should be doing better than commercial rates, but it's just an opportunity to set a fair rate. And I don't know what to suggest. I don't know what a fair rate is. 20,000 may be it, but as Chriso pointed out, the 20,000 a year is going to be eaten up for the first 4 or 5 years. And just as a question, so if you have more than 20,000 in expenses, do you eat the extra expense, or do you add it on to the next year? Because it's likely, given the number of the amount of expenses, that's going to be the case for the foreseeable future.
Tell us your name.
Caleb Lincoln,
Thank you.
Rachel Nixon.
Rachel Nixon.
A lot to unpack there, but the kind of final question, the latter part of it is correct. So if there was a $100,000 paint job, right, we run through that 5 years, but in that 5-year term, say the boiler goes, which it won't because we paid for a new boiler, but hypothetically, if a new boiler were to go, that we would pay for that upfront, and the rent reduction would continue until that were recouped. So say $20,000 extra, now we're into year 6 where the rent is reduced to offset that. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in short, it's the rent is reduced to offset large capital expenses. Am I right?
The rent is forgiven in lieu of the capital expenditures that the school makes to maintain the property.
How does the town lose in this?
It's our choice philosophically of where we want to land in supporting this institution, this beloved institution. I mean, we feel strongly about it. We also need to decide as a board, working on a board-to-board level, if we are comfortable with this arrangement. And that's up to us to think through. Allison?
Yeah, so like others that have stated, I think it does make sense to kind of share in a fair way on those capital improvements and protect the school from a certain amount of, taking on a major cost near the end of the lease and then having to leave and all that kind of stuff. I guess where I'm concerned is a few things with the wording. It seems like we could easily end up in a situation where this becomes something that needs to have an expense line for the town rather than just a revenue line. And I'm okay with it turning into something that's basically zero, that the amount, as long as the building is well maintained and, continues to be useful, the amount that is taken in revenue, ultimately goes back to that. But what I guess I'm concerned about is, so in the new lease, the town is responsible for routine maintenance, except for repairs caused by, I think it says due to neglect or negligence. And so I'm concerned about the interpretation of routine maintenance and the potential, in addition to just the financial liability, I don't want this to turn into something where there's constantly argument over leaking faucets and all those kinds of things. And I know that right now with these two boards and the understanding and the town manager and the director, there's been this collaborative relationship, but I think we have to set this up for the future and thinking that, people are going to be interpreting this in a decade with no history. And so I'd like to clear up some of that language about how we're going to determine what's routine maintenance and all of that. The other thing because we have an annotated version, and so there's some stuff about annual fire safety inspections, and then it seemed to me like the town was going to be responsible for the cost of upgrading to be in compliance with code stuff. And I'm not saying that's not reasonable, but I have no idea what that means. And I want to be, again, there is no expense line in the budget for the Montessori school or the Elm Street school, which will be our property, or maybe already is, I'm not actually sure. So I just think with the way that the voters approved it when it first came to our select board, it also included a copy of the school district lease. And so, which I agree, I'm totally supportive of changing some of that, and also supportive of trying to support the school, the Montessori school, in other ways. Like the town has some trust fund and grant support that can specifically target aspects of the school's mission that are like making it accessible to, students that couldn't otherwise pay, and all of those things. I think like mission-driven elements we could support in different ways, not necessarily always through the lease, but we didn't put an expense line in the budget also for the school, and that's what people approved. So I'd just like to see us get to some place. Maybe it's a cap, an annual cap on the, if a certain amount of capital improvements get reimbursed through the rent, we don't reimburse more capital expenditures than, say, I'm anticipating like improvements to the playground, or we realize that.
But what about a paint job which is going to be done within a season and could
The paint job, I feel, is
several
mostly,
years.
right, so
rent?
with that, I don't want to get into doing, I don't want the town to get into doing other things, basically. I want if we're going to be basically zeroing out the lease payment because of that contribution to because of that painting, then I don't want the town to have to pay additional things that may not be identified.
Yeah.
So like, you guys could pay, I could get to the point where you guys could pay 0, but not that the town then has to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying. Just to be perfectly frank, I think when someone takes over ownership of a rental property, to not have an expense line probably is unrealistic, especially when you're just getting going. Like there's going to be good years, there's going to be bad years, there's going to be expenses. It's going to happen.
Then we need a revenue line, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
That's for us to figure out. That's not for the lease. I mean, yes, as we go into next year's budget, we
It's a
should
budget.
have a
Well,
budget
yeah.
component, but that's not in the question is really, are we saying, is this really like essentially releasing it to them for $1 a year as a gesture, or is it an actual financial commitment? And then my question, it goes back to, in 5 years, I would just suggest not trying to, it's a lease. So you don't want to put too much specific language of did they paint it in the second year or not? But I would just suggest that when it renews in 5 years, there'd be a re-examining of the rental structure.
That would be fair because maintenance would kind of be known and what was
Right.
done and
And if
what
that
was the
major,
run rate like, and we had put
because
time for the
the
budget.
biggest major project coming is painting.
Yeah.
The roof is done, the boiler's done. Are there going to be other major things? Sure, but that should be knowable in 5 years. And at that point, the town will have established this
So are
relationship.
you comfortable with holding the rent consistent, or do you want to see an accelerator
No, I think
clause there?
I think it's fine to keep it simple
Okay,
at the 20,000. But I would just put a clause in about revisiting the the structure when because it's written to be an automatic renewal after 5 years, and that would be an automatic renewal under the terms of the current lease. And I would just suggest adding something that when it renews, the head of school and the town manager can revisit
so that provision where it says lessee may, there's a specific language that pertains to being reimbursed. To clarify that would not be automatically renewed in 5 years, but would be reconsidered.
Yeah, or where it says that the lease shall automatically renew for successive terms of 5 years, that could have a clause that says conditional on rent adjustment.
Right, I agree. There needs to be some mechanism for revisiting or being automatic. I rather favor the automatic because you would know years ahead what it's going to be, and we would know years ahead, rather than having to renegotiate and say, our experience was this, and it doesn't match, and that. I mean, I'm sure we could come to an agreement 5 years from now, but that's why I would favor an automatic. I'm not married to it, but there needs to be some kind of mechanism for increasing year after year rental amount.
But are you comfortable with perhaps removing the reimbursement for, or having the rent be offset, or maintenance costs being offset by rent reduction automatically? Or would you prefer to see us revisit that when we go to renew the lease in 5 years?
Oh, I see.
Do you see what, did I
I think
say
it says
that
may
clearly?
right now, right? It says may, we
It says
may,
May request.
Yeah. I
which
think
would
you
then
guys
come to
still
the
control-
select board, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a select board thing, not a town manager thing.
Probably town manager more than.
Yeah.
Well, I think that it becomes a difficult position for a town manager to be in, deciding whether to reimburse for capital expenses or not. I think the school district lease had something that said anything over $5,000 was considered a capital improvement and was approved by the school district. And then there was a little something in there about about the 24 years, there were certain circumstances where if you'd put money in, you were going to get it back. It does say that if but it wasn't robust enough, certainly. But there should be something that says kind of how we determine what a capital expense is, how we determine what is general maintenance. I don't know what that, I guess the school would submit a request every year, and then it would come to the select board for a decision because it says may request. And so
Right.
I'm hearing you say you only want it to go to the town manager, but I'm not sure that that falls within the scope of what we normally, just because of our micromanaging nature, not us, but the just town government structure and the budget. And I would imagine if may request, that's going to automatically trigger a select board review unless we want to say that it's automatic, but then, I mean, it's probably good to come every year and then the community is updated on what's going on, and it's arduous, but it's,
Yeah.
But
you
I think
know.
you had mentioned,
you're right.
Allison, you had mentioned on a routine basis, so say halfway through the year, you have the need to expend $3,000 or $4,000 on replacing a window. Rather than that doesn't have to come back to us, that's going to be,
Well, I mean,
they'd be taking on the risk
That would
of,
be a repair.
yeah, that's under maintenance and repairs,
Right.
which is qualified. So,
Excuse me, will this building ultimately be part of the budget process, much like other buildings we have, in having set aside expenses for that? So I would think maybe those who are renting would be able to have some input into what should be part of the budget because of some known item, as well as knowing what if there's a recurring thing. But I would think addressing it in the budget, however we do other buildings, we had addressing for the library with certain things and the snowball with certain things. And how is this building any different from that?
and I think that we are trying to go into this with our eyes wide open. You know a lot about the building already. You have a lot of qualified people on your board who've been able to look at the building through the lens of builders and painters and people in construction. So hopefully you're not going to be caught off guard with any,
No, and I think we've kind of taken proactive steps. We have our facilities committee, which we just stood up. We moved from a building committee to a facilities committee in anticipation of staying at the school. And so we're doing a thorough walkthrough to kind of make sure we understand any necessary repairs, capital expenditures. I think we've also engaged the town, is that true at this point, to do an August walkthrough with us?
Yeah, so our walkthrough is this Thursday, and we mentioned to Audra we would do a first thorough, and then we would hit the high points and make available the full report.
Yeah.
And there was a very thorough report done in 2020 that we have. Tyler Smith did, he was the chair of the board, so he did it as a consultant, building consultant.
oh, maybe we could get a copy of that. I was thinking it might be smart for us just to have a basic inspection done at the time of, we have this new asset that,
Yeah.
That's what we talked about with Audra, so
Yeah, we'll
in
make that
August,
available.
well, we hope that when we have it signed, we thought we would be ready. And we're happy to share the details of this Thursday and then invite whomever from the town. So it's sort of an opportunity we don't anticipate any big things coming to light, but just a thorough assessment of the building at this point.
So let's move from the theoretical to the concrete and look at what the lease actually says. And if there are things that we would like to change at this point, I think we're very close, but we do have this marked up, annotated version. And I'd love to get the sense of the board, whether or not the language, especially what's in blue with the yellow highlighted comments, are clauses or language that you're comfortable adding at this point. If there's anything in particular there that you feel is not in the best interest of the town.
It's the Fisherman's Memorial.
It's the
That's
rock with a plaque.
Stop and go, you know,
That's the
that
Conway Boulder.
Conway Boulder.
Boulder.
That has nothing to do with fishing.
Do they call it the Fisherman's
No.
Memorial?
No.
I have to change that.
I mean, it's in,
Historical accuracy is important too.
you know why they put that there was so that none of the children, they thought everybody would become educated about the heroism of this common soldier, and Camden residents had forgotten all about this. And this guy from the army came and was like, because they heard about the story of the heroism of William Conway, and they said, wow, we're going to go to Camden and visit, and surely he's a hero there, and everybody's going to know all about him. We can learn about him. And they came and they said nobody had any idea, and what a tragedy it was. And so they did this huge celebration. They said, how can we make sure nobody forgets? And they dragged the boulder and they put the plaque right next to the school. And I went, my kids went to school there. I never taught them the story, and so maybe we could do another joint Conway Day. But all that aside, that had to do with I read that in the maintenance and repair section. And lessor is responsible for routine maintenance of the school building. And I am just concerned that that means like annual waxing of the floor. And so I'd really like to see, and I'm sure others with their building experience and leasing experience have some bullet points of what that includes or what that, doesn't include. Does the town get called literally to fix a faucet? I know it sounds, I'm hoping it sounds silly, but I just would like to see some clarification in that.
Where are you seeing that specifically? Because
Maintenance and repairs?
Yeah, but
I don't see where it says
lessor
Shall be solely responsible for maintenance and
of
keep of the
the
memorial.
memorial and the
Okay.
lawn
Lessee
maintenance
shall
and the
make-
public trash can outside the fence.
lessee shall
doesn't-
make all interior and
Lessee.
Let's see.
well,
That's
some of it's
them.
crossed out, so it's really hard to, so repairs by lessee shall only be,
The only thing that the town is
Is the
obligated
Fisherman's
for
Memorial?
is the memorial.
Is that what's outside the fence right
Okay.
there?
And they are taking on, in addition to capital expenses, they're taking on all of the maintenance of the building
Yeah.
and
where
utilities.
does it say
and
that
fire.
specifically?
I mean, that.
Okay, that
in
would
the
relieve a
small-
lot of
in
my,
The small blueprint.
lessee
shall make all interior and exterior repairs.
No, it says as a result of
Use.
negligence,
Neglect, use, or
Use.
use of
Use.
lessee.
Can we
Yeah.
start with use, like you have use, I guess in terms of
Yeah.
concrete changes, I'd like use to be the first in that
Use or
list.
misuse, negligence or neglect. We can do
Okay.
that.
So the
That's
floor
easy.
is a great example of that's
The
use,
faucets.
right?
Yeah.
Kids running around, that's
Okay,
going to be use. Yeah. But if your sewer line breaks exiting the building, right, because it's 150 years old or something, right, it's like a clay pipe out there, that would be your responsibility.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks for that.
Well, wait, you are correct though, Allison, because the next sentence does say lessor is responsible for routine maintenance of the
Right.
school building.
Okay, I
So
know.
that,
What's
I
routine
would-
maintenance?
Routine maintenance is largely, so there's the use, which would be less C, right, that we talked about before.
Like
And-
waxing the floors?
Yep, and our neglect, right. Routine maintenance and repair is more kind of what I was
What's
getting at.
routine maintenance?
Routine maintenance, let's think of an example of routine maintenance for a building. So you have a fire suppression system, right? That is a major system in a building. It requires quarterly maintenance typically. Your insurer, I'm sure, would want you to do that. That would be a routine maintenance item. That would not be on us, that would be on you. The lessor.
Filters for the oil tank.
Filters for the oil tank, upkeeping your boiler that we replaced. These would typically be
Routine.
maintenance things. There's no repair necessary. It is the ongoing maintenance of
The systems.
the systems,
Do
basically.
and that is a cost that's currently assumed by the school, by the Montessori school?
Yep.
Do you have any record of what that costs?
Yeah, totally.
So we just did $4,000 to the fire suppression system. And the last time we did that, I showed Audra, I gave her the detail for these different categories. So we can pull up anything from the last 5 or 10 years.
I think I would want to have an assessment done by somebody that could tell us what the expected routine maintenance costs are.
And I think to add into that sentence, including but not, what would the wording be? To include the fire suppression, the routine maintenance of the, is it the boiler? I mean, we own the boiler.
Yeah.
It would seem like the normal things.
Yeah.
If you own which I don't,
Yeah,
own a property
own a-
that you rent, it still comes to your responsibility. If
Right.
you are-
You know, cleaning the
If
gutters,
you own it.
the drain. I mean, just thinking about that
Who's gonna
story
clean the
with,
gutters?
with Dave clearing out a drain and finding the drain. I mean, that's a great example of the town is clearing sewers and clears a drain.
So to just have some
It's a
kind of
public
language
building that
to
goes, I mean,
This
include
is-
but not limited to the fire suppression, the maintenance of the boiler.
Yeah.
So it's safety and soundness and utilities. We should
Yeah.
be responsible for.
Yeah.
and what are you thinking that's going to run us every year, Chris? Just out of
I don't really know on a building like that, but I do know on another property that I've had to analyze over the past 3 years. It's been about $10,000 on a regular residence a year for annual expenses.
And they just spent 4,000 on the
Yeah,
fire
so
suppression,
ours
so we're
is-
probably looking at.
Yeah, we budget 7,500 the last couple of years. We spent 4,000 on the fire suppression and came in just above 7,500. And we were lower the last 2 years, so.
Mhm.
I'm just really concerned about this turning into something that costs money without going through a process where we're not putting any of this out to bid. We're not giving anybody else an opportunity to try to lease the building. I guess I'm personally okay with the terms with these people and this situation, but I think
Who are
I
these
would,
people?
us and them, you know, but,
You're talking
but I think
7 people talking right now.
that, given the, amount of discussion that has happened over just, the yacht club and so the parking lot needs to be paved. Things like that can just turn into so much cost and then also so much disagreement. The yacht club lease is really, and I hate that I'm using this as like a great example of a lease because I often don't do that, but it makes it very clear that all the responsibilities are on them and they pay 20,000 plus an escalator, which has put them at like 30 something. And in looking at past select boards and what they've done to try to avoid the problems of the past, I think one possible way to get around that concern is just to have it come back for review more often. That's one thing about the yacht club lease is that it requires a 20-year notice by the town if terms are going to change. And so that's why it feels like, woof, that's like, but as long as there's an opportunity for future select boards and future residents on this building to say, hey, let's look at this again. I mean, I'm envisioning that hopefully the relationship between the school and the town is going to be different now, maybe more of a shared space. In my fantasy world, there'll be occasional meetings in the future, maybe that will be held over there. There'll be desire by the town to say, hey, we're using this in this different way. We're using the playground in this different way. Let's make sure we put some money in the budget for this, because maybe it can be more of a collaborative thing. some of that is going to be really hard to envision in this lease right now. So maybe as part of the annual budget process.
I mean, it is a novel relationship because I can't think of another town property that is leased to a nonprofit.
The Chamber of Commerce, which
Chamber
kind
of
of,
Commerce, which doesn't exist anymore. but
and we
that
have
was-
a
yeah.
building that's in
But
disrepair.
we've got an ongoing, it's in your best interest. I mean, obviously you have children in there, you have people using the building, you're deeply invested in it being safe and sound. So I would like to move this process along, and I will come back to my earlier question. Are there specifics in this lease as it's written now that you find you really would like to see changed, or are you comfortable with the amendments as written? Are there specific things that we could direct Holly and Audra when, I think she's,
Or Bill Kelly, maybe based on the
to
conversation,
have
to
him look at it?
firm up the extent of the town's financial.
I mean,
Chris has
yeah.
an idea.
Yeah, just real quick. First, the things that are in here, I don't know how much the town can kind of complain that we've got requirements to go ahead and maintain safety and soundness, because it's the same sort of requirement that we've put people on with a short-term rental. And if we're quibbling out over things that we have required of others, that's not even fair. And this is probably how the people with some short-term rentals that disagreed with it probably feel. So that's point one. Two, it seems that the town went ahead and voted and said that, yes, the Montessori school it would be nice, how it words, that the Montessori still be there. And I think if we make substantive change, then we're going against what the people in town thought they were voting for. Granted, the lease was maybe a slightly different price, but I still think it would be in keeping with the intent and spirit of what the people voted on to go ahead with the lease. It's a semi-reasonable, I guess you could say, because there are no other properties that are paying that much for their lease of a Camden town property. Is one little question I have is whether or not this gives the Montessori school a competitive advantage of other like schools as compared to what they have to pay on a monthly basis. It wouldn't be kind of business fair to give the Montessori school something that, other people have to pay, I don't know, $50,000 a year, whatever it is. But if we are being fair to the other businesses, we want life and activity over there at the building. We didn't, want as a town to have, apartments in there. This is in line with what's been done in the past. And so as a result, even with some of the little bits of words that changed here and there, I think this is in line with what the people in town voted for.
So
I'm not a realtor agent, so I don't know the details.
So are
of
you
some of those
comfortable with the language in this lease as we are reading it
things.
tonight?
With the blue,
With the blue?
with the
changes?
lineouts. Again, I'm not a realtor agent,
Okay. Well, you
so
don't
I
need to
wouldn't
be
know
to-
some of those details, but I think it's in spirit.
It's a pretty standard, most of the language, I mean, yes, there aren't missing some, it's not totally specific about what is maintenance, because that's the nature of lease. To your question about how does this frame, as the former vice chair of the board of one of the other schools in this area, I can tell you that none of them have an advantage over the others when it comes to, the other two have bigger campuses and buildings and expenses but they own their properties outright. So they're dealing with similar expense lines. This
So
does
I have
not.
one vote. You seem to be comfortable with the lease as written. Ken, how do you feel?
I think there needs to be some kind of mechanism for a regular a regular increase in the rent or revisiting of the rent. Because as outlined now, the town is not going to break even. Over the next 4 or 5 years, the expenses will be 20,000, and they've said that the budget line, which we are now assuming the budget for maintenance is 7,500, which sounds reasonable. So
We've got it, this is a 5-year lease.
Just to clarify,
Yeah.
you will, when we sign the lease, get $5,000 and then another 5,000 the next quarter. So until we have to make the first payment to the painting contractor, you will have money in the bank.
It also, the one thing, it does say, does it still say may
Right,
reimburse?
right.
Yeah.
So-
which is very intentional. It's, you know,
That does
not
give, that does
unreasonably
give any
withheld.
select board I think but I agree with Ken. I think that we should put the CPI just right in there. We're already ready,
Yeah.
making a lot of changes to this to be more fair and collaborative. So I just add the CPI right in there, and then
Starting from the,
starting from the
when
beginning.
will it, so I noticed in looking at the lease that you had with the school district, that the CPI was in there and
Year 2.
in year 2. So do we have it start off right from the beginning?
Yeah.
That's the way that's what the yacht club does.
And that's
what,
pretty, yeah, it's a
very
pretty
standard.
Okay.
And then it's not confusing. It's not saying, well, every 3 years ago, or it's just a normal. and-
Yeah, I
So-
think that just for, I don't want to speak for the entire school, but that approach is easier for us, right? Opposed to coming back in 5 years and
Right.
who knows what you're going to decide. It'd be nice if it were at least articulated up front,
So
stated in the
the,
lease so we can anticipate
the
it.
language that was in the school district lease is very straightforward. Are we comfortable with taking that language and inserting it into this?
Where is that?
It's
Susan?
Article 5 in the
old lease.
lease with the school district.
I don't have that in front of me. What is the percentage out of curiosity?
It says it's linked to the CPI. It doesn't.
Perfect.
Yeah,
What-
it doesn't give
yep,
a specific
link to the
number.
CPI.
It
Okay.
just says,
Published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics for the most recent available month preceding the commencement of each lease year. In no case, however, shall the annual rent in any lease year be less than the annual rent in the prior lease year. In the event Bureau of Labor Statistics ceases publishing the index or material changes the method of its computation, lessor and lessee shall accept comparable statistics on purchasing power, blah, blah, blah. So there, we can,
So we're not going nuts in either direction.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
We'll base it on
but it's
something.
a set,
So if we take
predictable.
the,
Yeah.
take the language from Article V, Article 5 of the school district lease on rental.
Item number 3.
Item.
It's not article, is it section 3 or
it's
number
called
3
Article
or?
5.
Yeah.
On the old.
Oh, on the school
On
district.
ours, it's just section 3. right?
That's the
Okay.
language that we're looking at.
Okay.
And drop that in to the paragraph about the rental
Number
Yeah.
3.
rate, number
Yeah,
3.
after the first quarter rent payment shall be payable on effective date in each
Yep.
quarter. And then say the CPI info, yeah.
So I like it. Feels like progress.
So does this mean that with each year, the decision about reimbursement can be made by the select board, and they might be able to say, gosh, just imagine, like, it's not you as director. You've got a different board that has racked up all kinds of, not racked up on purpose, but that the expenses for just general maintenance are at 25,000, 50,000. Would it, a select board at that point might be able to say, we just really can't refund the rent this year because, we have to share in some of these unexpected costs. Is that sort of the intent of it?
I don't know if that, I think that's part of the ownership of an older building. Like if, again, we've done a lot of these things, but if a roof went and then your boiler rent to ask us to all of a sudden pay for those, that seems like that's more of
But
a
it's
lessor.
normally there would be some kind of revenue. So normally when you lease, you own a building and then you lease it to another entity, they don't do that just to
Well,
be,
but
There's-
the protection for both sides is that the lessee may request.
well, I
They
just
can
want to
come
try to
every
get
year
more.
and request, and if it seems unreasonable to the select board at that time, they can say,
Yeah.
I was just I was trying to give a hypothetical because I'd prefer not to be here in a few years having the Montessori school say, this wasn't the intent of it. So I was just curious. The school will be free to make the argument at the time, and the town will be
I mean,
able to give.
an 18-wheeler could run the stop sign and
Right.
drive into the
That would
Elm
be
Street School.
insurance, but yeah,
And
not with that boulder there. But.
hey, it could bounce over, they could take out the boulder and we've got to put the boulder, I mean, the world could,
Right,
any
but there'll be a
number.
conversation. We're not giving away the right of future residents or
No.
select boards to be able to.
And that's, but again,
Yeah.
it says that they
They
can
may.
request.
Right. So
Correct.
And only the playground shall not unreasonably. Is that
Yeah.
did that get taken out or did that
No,
say?
it's still
Well, we
there.
should say shall not unreasonably withheld.
I think
but-
that kind of language is really difficult. That it would be, I believe there will be enthusiasm for improving that playground a little bit. And that,
That's a separate issue outside of this, though.
Yeah.
I
Well,
agree.
Improvements,
but-
improvements.
It's in the
are-
lease, though. The language is there and given the public use of the playground. So we need to, but I think that the way that this is written, it is a conversation between us.
Yeah.
And we shall not unreasonably, and that's completely open to
Right.
interpretation.
Right, because we own the property. And if we say, yep, there's a lot of kids that play here on this property, not just in between 8 and 4,
Right.
then it's a town thing to go ahead and handle the playground.
right, but now it says that what is the actual language here
They may
about
request
the
that the rental-
requirement to make it public?
That
Does it
the-
say?
It's given the public use of the playground.
Yeah, it's
So,
understood.
yeah, but I think there's going to be an ongoing conversation, or the public will be interested or has a right to a voice there in, what the hours are for that. What does that mean? And that based on how much the public is using it or in what shared ideas there are about improvements, I'd rather see a collaborative process where we're talking about improvements to the playground.
Well,
And
but
what
tenants
the
have
hours.
rights. Tenants have rights. And as the tenants of the building, there are rights that are enshrined in the lease. And because they are an entity, they're entitled to set the terms. And we can't say, like as it is now, the playground is being used by camp and it's not available for public use until 3:00 in the afternoon. And then on the weekends, you as tenants have the right to the quiet enjoyment of the property and all of that standard stuff. And to the extent that, taxpayers we're not a committee of the whole to jump into the middle of this lease discussion with the Montessori school. They will set the terms by which the playground is used, and then we will decide how much we're prepared to participate in the replacement of
Mhm.
playground items based on, if you say no more public access to the playground, well, then it's on you.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
the extent that you're
They weren't
allowing.
allowed to do that, though. I mean, I don't imagine that they will do that, but the old lease was very explicit
Right, and I
that they
don't
were
imagine
not
that-
allowed,
But I'm
to
just saying, in a worst-case
unreasonably limit
scenario,
the,
They could say,
well, I think the lease should not give them that option. I think it made it sort of reasonable. They were supposed to develop rules They were supposed to make a reasonable effort to make it available to public during non-school, whatever. None of that language is in the new lease,
It just says given public use of the playground.
which makes it seem like that's kind of,
A given?
I think that
Optional and that-
there's a little hair splitting going on here that
Yeah.
I think the language that's here protects both parties and allows for the continuation of the kind of use that you've been putting the property to, and leaves it open to, we'll have a discussion when and if there's a need for, we might say, we really feel like you're too restrictive, or, but if not,
I mean, if you think of it in terms of any rental lease agreement between any landlord and tenant, if the tenant is doing things that the landlord doesn't like, the landlord can go and visit and say, hey, this isn't how. And again, all of these things are the lessee may request.
Right.
And the board may say yes. The board may not say yes, or the board may say, well, show us how much public use is in the playground, but all of those things happen down the road. And you can't, if you try and build in all of the specifics into the lease, then there's some exemption that somebody gets pinged on in 2 years that wasn't our intention because you put too many clauses.
I just wanted to share one note that I think pertains to this living out beyond as a nonprofit that has to serve the public benefit and fulfill our mission and meet all of the DHHS requirements. We have ratio requirements. There's a reason why the playground isn't open to the public until after hours. So I just want you to trust that beyond my time, beyond Caleb's time, the DHHS licensing requirements are so detailed for the safety of those children. And we have to uphold all of the policies. And it has to do with being in relationship with the town about the systems to make sure the systems are safe because we have children in the building. So we are incredibly the highest level of care because we are taking care of families' children's in our community. So I hope you trust that beyond our time, that's a given, that the standard is going to be very high. And we love having the public. Like our school is so happy to have the public. And I can never imagine another future board or head of school that would not feel that way because we're educators and we want to share this space. So I hope that's helpful. It's just a context that's a little bit different perhaps than another lessee.
Right.
that's great to hear.
So given that, I just want to keep us moving along to see whether we can get to the language that we want to see here in order to create a draft to circulate and hopefully have everybody in agreement. So far we're up to adding the accelerator language that we're taking out of the school district lease. Allison, is there something specific that you would like to see in the language around the playground that would make you comfortable, or are you? looking at
I
the
thought
blue
that
markup?
since a lot of this has been, I think, about the continuation, people voting very strongly to continue a version of the agreement as is, I got a little nervous when you were like, if they decide to, and I agree that I don't think they're going to do that, but maybe just copying how about this, the Monastery school, the CHMS will make a reasonable effort to make the playground available to the public.
Which article is that in the other one?
8, I think you were on.
Let's see.
No, it's into public use. Lessee shall use good faith efforts to allow reasonable public access to the playground area of the leased premises during times when the lessee is not using it for its own purposes, provided that lessee is able to obtain liability insurance at a commercially reasonable cost, protecting lessor against third-party claims arising out of such use.
I think we're taking
add
on the
that in.
insurance this time, though, so that's,
But that
they
first,
really had this wrapped up, and, I mean, you got to give them credit just a little bit from one perspective.
I get my understanding is we were not in a position really to do anything but just sign on the dotted line.
Right,
to
right,
be able
yeah.
to continue.
yeah.
So we're making some headway,
But,
so why don't we take the
but-
first part of that?
Well, and also lessee shall establish rules and hours for such use, including appropriate supervision of minors by their parents or guardians and responsibility for damage or destruction. So the
You don't have to
beginning-
supervise other people's children that aren't.
So we're taking
Students.
out the language around liability insurance because that's different now that we're in a different relationship. So if we've got the
No,
first
that's
half of
if
that
if your
sentence.
children are there outside of school, you are responsible for your children's actions.
Oh,
So,
I thought it was saying that the Montessori school had to
No, no,
monitor
if
those
that's,
kids
that's
too.
saying that if,
Don't do that.
no, that's saying that if someone's children are on the playground and they destroy something, that those children and their parents are liable, not the town or the school.
so let me just,
Yeah, I just think it would just, not the nitty gritty of it, just the first part about
yeah,
the,
so lessee shall use good faith efforts to allow reasonable public access to the playground area of the leased premises during times when the lessee is not using it for its own purposes, full stop. And then take the last sentence, lessee shall establish rules and hours for such use, including appropriate supervision of minors by their parents or guardians and responsibility for damage or destruction.
oh, like one of
Like
their
the first
rules
and last
is
sentence.
that.
Yeah.
It's saying that one of the rules that you guys would
I
have
mean,
would
do you have
be.
a sign? Is there a sign for hours currently?
Yeah.
There used to be years
There
ago.
is, it just changes, like now the camp sign
Right,
is
but
up.
does it say anything about children at risk or you're here at your own risk? I mean, that's kind
I'm okay with just saying you'll establish
Yeah,
rules.
that seems like something we probably could figure out.
yeah,
Even
that's
the
what I
town
was-
might have an opinion on
No,
how they want to
that's
use their time, yeah.
totally, that's
Okay,
totally
I'm
on you.
just trying to get
I'm
us,
just curious.
get it pinned down. So if we're adding that language from Article 2 about public use, just the first sentence,
Yeah.
okay.
If they want to have rules, they can. If they don't have to. That's whatever the Montessori philosophy
Okay,
is on
so
rules. It's fine.
on to, but the,
Can I bring my shoe polishing kit?
But the,
Set up shop down there.
I was a Montessori graduate, just. to
okay,
put
I
that
just
out
want
there.
to keep moving here. I get everybody's background and love it of all of it.
So they're responsible for my
So
nature.
First sentence down to
we're good with the playground. Does that,
I'm done with my comments,
okay.
by the way.
okay. And then on the paragraph 4, maintenance and repairs, we've gone through that.
Just want use to be the first word rather
Right,
than in
to
the
put
middle.
use. Okay.
And then,
Holly, are you getting this too?
The use one is the one I'm missing.
So in the sentence that says lessee shall make all interior and exterior repairs and replacements that occur as a result of use
Yeah, third one.
or misuse, negligence, or neglect by lessee.
Use first.
Gotcha.
like a broken window.
Yeah.
Right? That's an example.
Okay, and so we've got that. And then under, that's the only language that's been added.
The rest is fine. I mean, it's, yeah.
I move that these changes be incorporated into a draft that can be circulated for approval.
Second.
including Article 5, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
the
So we've
one
got-
that's on Article 5, with the other one on the bottom of page 2,
Right,
rental.
yeah.
So that's the CPI.
The CPI
Yeah, yes.
piece
the
and the,
CPI.
yeah, we've already, yeah.
I'm going to note that also in the first paragraph, the identification of the town of Camden and the address is incorrect.
And we
We'll-
should
we'll make that
clarify what
correction.
the memorial is.
Oh, yes, the,
And then
the
change the
Oh,
memorial
yes,
to the
Conway.
proper.
Yes,
Good catch.
I didn't catch that one either.
Okay, so we have
William
a
Conway
motion. I need a
Memorial
second.
Folder.
I seconded.
Any
More.
further discussion? All those in favor? Yahoo, progress.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank you so much.
All right, good work. Thank you all. That was, thanks for doing your homework on that and being up to speed so we could discuss it in a meaningful way. Appreciate it. Okay. We've had Jeff Sparrow patiently waiting for the next agenda item, which is the Sagamore Farm. Inspection results.
Real quick question.
Yes.
You spoke up during the public hearing. Were you
Right.
expecting to have that be part of this agenda?
He's just-
Okay, I
he's
just wanted to
just
make sure you
enjoying-
weren't,
He's just seeing how it works, right?
right? I was just wanted to make sure you weren't sticking around thinking it was going to be added. Okay. I didn't want you to be
Thank you, Chris.
entirely disappointed.
Appreciate that. All right, so we will go on to the inspection results from the Sagamore Farm. And Jeff Sparrow has joined us as the.
Who's Jeff Sparrow?
He's about to identify
Mhm.
himself. He's the inspector who provided the report that's in your packet.
And can I just say that I need to fall on my sword and say Chris was so right and I was so wrong.
It happens.
On this particular issue. So I read that, I was like,
Okay.
oh my gosh.
All right, Jeff, bring it on.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here. So I'm Jeff Sparrow with Sparrow Energy Group, provide energy consulting services. I got my start in the energy industry in Maine back in 2006. Spent about 16 years in solar engineering, design, and development, among many other things. I was retained by the staff at the town office to basically analyze the Sagamore Farm solar PPA and kind of assess the risk to the town of purchasing the project or continuing to kind of run it as a power purchase agreement with Provision Investments. So I reviewed all of the service logs, production estimates, the project economics, and the project has operated, I would say, reliably in terms of producing the amount of energy that was advertised to produce. In fact, they're right in line within a few percent from year to year. The inspections and service work has been thorough. Revision Energy has did a great job designing and maintaining the system. But upon review of the service logs for the project and some of the aging components, identified that the inverters, which are the kind of workhorse of any solar project, have had a pretty high failure rate and have required roughly half of them have been replaced to date. And so that's an area for concern. And additionally, the site doesn't have inverter level monitoring from a remote location, so it is hard for the town to tell if that is working or not. So I think those are probably two critical issues that led to my recommendation that the town not purchase the array and continue to operate it under the PPA arrangement. And still receives I think a strong discount compared to what you pay for the credits versus what the credits are valued at. The math is in my write-up. And continue to watch this system, and should those two issues be resolved, revisit purchasing the array in the future. The agreement is written as such that the town has this option every year for the duration of the PPA agreement. So that's a kind of broad summary of my assessment, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
From the select board.
I'm curious, what is a normal lifespan of an inverter? And 2, what is the cost to repair? And 3, what happens if you don't know you have a bad inverter?
Yep. So first, 15 to 20 years is kind of a industry accepted expected lifespan of an inverter. So that is typically, when we do a financial analysis on a solar array, you're typically modeling replacing those somewhere between year 15 and 20. Whereas these inverters have required maintenance or replacement, roughly 1 inverter per year since the system's gone in. The cost really varies by the inverter itself and the labor associated with it. I'm not going to speculate on what that would be. It's, in the thousands. But that's something I'm sure revision could, tell the town what it would cost to replace an inverter. I think a few $1,000s would be the ballpark.
And the third part was what happens when an inverter does not work.
Yep. So when it doesn't work, basically that section of the array stops producing power. In this system, there are 13 inverters. And so if one goes down, then 1/13 of your production is lost while that inverter is down. And one drawback with this system is that without that inverter level monitoring, it takes an on-site visit by somebody who's been trained to, tell if the inverters are working or not. So if the town were to buy that, I would set up some type of routine protocol where somebody's visiting the site, every 1 to 3 months to inspect the inverters and confirm that they're functioning properly.
Is that monitoring system something that can be retrofitted so that we don't have to do a physical inspection?
I don't know. Revision made comment of it in their reports that it would be a desirable attribute to have. It seems like poor cellular connectivity in that area maybe led to a monitoring system that doesn't allow for that.
Hey, tell us about the ants. You said ants are nesting in warm, hot areas of the components.
Yeah, so it's not terribly uncommon for outdoor mounted electrical equipment. It's documented in the inspection reports. But yeah, small ants and insects find their way into these warm electronics and tend to nest around the warm parts of the components. So I think as the equipment ages, that becomes more prevalent.
And is the issue, besides maybe not having a proper leasing agreement, is the issue that might cause a short?
That's certainly possible, though it has not occurred to date. So.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, so Jeff, thank you. In your summary, you said, I lost track, you said there were 2 issues that needed to be resolved. One was the aging of the inverters. And what was, I missed the second.
The second is the ability to remotely monitor the systems at the inverter level so that somebody from basically an internet connection can tell if one of the inverters is experiencing a fault.
Yeah, thank you. So looking long term, at some point, the Camden will consider expanding our solar array. And so how does that, our decision now affect that decision to expand? I mean, is it necessary to own the current array before we expand, or is it just a matter of getting another PPA if we wish to expand?
Yeah, so that is a pretty complicated question to answer. Well, I guess state politics and rules aside, it would, if you were going to expand on that site that is already leased by Revision Investments, it would take some coordination with them, and maybe they would expand upon that PPA. The challenge with expanding has a lot to do with legislative changes around Maine's net energy billing program. Adding inverters to this project would require a new interconnection application, which would basically reopen the current interconnection, and the project would likely lose its grandfathered status into what was a pretty great program. And the latest state legislation that passed last month effectively puts an end to the program this project is currently enrolled in.
Thank you.
And I did do some additional analysis around that, and the town is offsetting all of its kind of small commercial load with credits from this solar array, like 95% of those credits. So if the town were to expand, it really needs to take a critical look at the economics of offsetting load with lower value credits, which I think goes probably beyond the scope of this inquiry.
So if we don't do purchase the property now, our advantage in lower price, that extends out the full 20 years. That doesn't change.
Correct. Yeah, right. If you buy this today or 5 years from now, the credits are still going to have the same value as they do as part of the good program.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I guess I would just like to know really what the cost of the monitoring would be, and what's the cost of an inverter? How much? I mean, looking through the records, sometimes it's that they sent people out there who plugged a code, flipped a code, did something. Is there warranty? Like, at a certain point, we're going to keep revisiting, and there's going to be the same question of the monitoring and the inverters. But if we don't, I would just like to know what those actual costs might be.
Aren't they, somebody had told me that they're under warranty.
And some
But
of them
it's
should be
more
under
the issue
warranty.
of us monitoring. I was
Right.
hoping there was some kind of a contract that we could have changed the contract with revision so they continue to do
But
all
is
of
that
that
something
monitoring.
that if we buy it, we can take in? Is that something that the town can take on, that maintenance and monitoring in-house
So-
for less cost?
Yeah. So that was kind of my perspective of, revision is in the business of maintaining, monitoring, repairing these systems. And the question is, does the town want to take on that responsibility? Granted, you would probably still hire revision to do that work. But when the system goes down currently, it is, revision investments losing the revenue from the project. So, they're highly motivated to deploy people as quickly as possible to get out there and repair the project. If it is the town's responsibility to identify service issues, it just might take longer to service that project. But I think your questions around inverter replacement is a great one, and something that the town can direct rate to revision on that. And perhaps if they're motivated to sell the project, build in some type of warranty. I mean, the purchase and sale agreement as it's written is, purchased as is, where is, without warranty. Maybe that is an area for negotiation.
And it was a discussion item last August when we were talking about it in our planning session. And it was actually Tom Hedstrom, the electrician, who brought up the points of failures over time.
Right.
And the specific one he mentioned at the time was the inverter issues, which are just here. And again, so
So if you look
want
at
to know what
the-
you're getting into.
Yeah, if you look at the memo, Allison.
I mean, I think the way this all began was that it was great to hear that it's performing as expected and that the environmental benefit is as expected. And so that's a triumph. I do think you made a good point about the way it being set up, that revision is highly motivated to make sure all those inverters are working properly. And that is a financial gain for them, but it's also an environmental gain for the project also when that happens. So that does make me feel really good about it. And I worry that in addition to, the potential financial aspect, if the town takes it over and can't continue all of that the environmental benefit also could end up being less. So I don't know. I mean, it's just nice to know that it's working properly.
Yeah, and if you look at the memo that preceded the report, there's no action that we need to take at
Correct.
this time. Things will continue to function as they are. And to quote what Jeff stated in his conclusion, if and when Camden were to purchase the project, all maintenance, repairs, and monitoring responsibility would be at the cost and/or responsibility of Camden. And to add to that, modifying the agreement with revision if we do decide to go ahead with it. But at this point, we don't need to do anything. But it's valuable information that I think we were waiting for to decide whether we were going to pull the trigger or not. And it sounds like we're best just waiting to see where things stand. So I appreciate your time. Are there any further questions from the board?
Yeah, I just have one
Okay.
follow-up question. We were poised to purchase used equipment, knowing that it was already 8 years into a 20-year life cycle. So you're saying it is not just 8 years old, but it's worse than average. That's what I'm hearing, and that is the decision that we're making. That it is not as good condition as you would expect an 8-year-old system to be.
I would say that, I mean, the system and the installation and all the nuts and bolts and components appear to be in fine shape. I think, it's more specific to the inverter reliability that is kind of out of spec with industry expectations. That's the major cause for concern there.
And it's bad inverters that are prone to failure while also not having monitoring on those inverters.
And the monitor,
So you don't have the compensating control.
is that really because of the cell phone coverage out there and the?
So, I mean,
I don't have a good answer for you on that. That may be it, but
well, I can imagine that 8 years ago, the connectivity up there was less successful and reliable, but I do know
Oh, it's bad now too.
it's, well, if you look at the report from the techs who go up there, and several times they mention called so-and-so, call was dropped.
Oh, yeah, if you go out there, you
So
can.
it's,
Yeah, Holly,
It is
didn't
in
you
there.
have some wisdom
Yeah.
about that, about the
I had heard it was
the
because we
system-
had this like
the system
blackout
for
area.
And
for the
until we
first
go ahead and
responders
put,
or something? There was,
until we put cell phone towers out on the islands and face back to the mountain, the cell phones just
Yeah.
don't communicate through
Or
mountains
at
very
Sagamore
well.
Farm.
yeah.
You'd have a
Anyway,
footprint
let's-
problem with your cell.
So, I mean,
yes, but let's,
yeah, so for, I mean, and then earmarking or for a future conversation, what our options are for expansion or deriving more energy from solar. We've done this every few years and stopped moving, progress because of one thing or another. But I'd like to make sure that on a future agenda,
Well,
we can talk
yeah,
about.
and it could be worth also reaching out to Revision, because I know several other organizations who have big solar arrays and got to this point and they renegotiated the purchase price significantly down because Revision was happy to do the deal, but they got better warranty. That so there is some.
So we
wiggle
could
room for
incorporate that
negotiation.
into our goal setting as something to
Good point.
revisit. So,
I think that would be worthwhile. And one comment I made regarding the purchase price is it wasn't, it's just deemed as fair market value without any kind of supporting documentation or calculation methodology on how that price
was arrived at.
was calculated. So that might be an area for the town to inquire also.
Okay.
It does seem clear that they are not that motivated to get rid of it, which is initially what made me think, wow, it does seem like the pressure for the town to do this makes sense, because from what I could tell talking to Revision, they were in no hurry to try to get us to do this. It was like that we had the right to do it.
Yep.
So otherwise, they might be looking at this, gosh, we got to get this off of our hands. Let's convince the town to do that, but they don't appear to
Right.
be at all concerned about that. So
Yeah, I don't know what whether it's good, bad, or indifferent for them to sell it. You know, if the economics were modeled out appropriately, they should, continue to earn a profit while the town continues to save, on its energy bills. So.
Okay. Jeff, thank you for your wisdom, and we will be back in touch if we need further support on this question. Thank you.
Okay, sounds great.
All
Thank you
right.
all.
And our last action item, Michael, thank you for your patience. I'm sure it's been fascinating to be here with us. But would you like to tell us about the National Lighthouse Day awareness activities on Curtis Island?
I'm Michael Scaling, Camden resident, and I'm president of the Curtis Island Lighthouse Foundation. And part of what we're doing is trying to have people understand and get to the island and experience it. And the visioning work that we recently completed, there was pretty strong feelings about, a lot of local residents don't get to the island. Some who can kayak and take a small boat will get there. So one of the things that we think is important is that more people get to see it and experience it. And it's always interesting to talk with people that they've lived here their whole life and have never been there. So one thing we thought of doing this year was with National Lighthouse Day that's coming up on August 7th, is to provide some transportation to help people get to the island, so it won't be just on their own paddle boards or kayaks or canoes or swim. So what we've done is Sam Appleton has a boat. It's kind of a landing craft. It's a fairly heavy-duty island landing craft boat that Lyman Morse built a few years ago for him. And Sam's volunteered to bring people to the island. And so that's one. The other way to get people there are in small boats, like the foundation has a 13-foot Boston whaler, and we can take 4 or 5 people at a time. So what we're looking at is Sam on 2 different dates. There's the National Lighthouse Day on Thursday, August 7th. And then in September, there's a Maine Open Lighthouse Day on September 13th, and that would be a Saturday. So what we're trying to do is coordinate to get a few people over there. We're thinking somewhere between 30 and 50 people. We want to do it safely. We want to make sure people can get to the island. We'll have people on the island that will help direct them up the stairs and then take a look at the lighthouse and the different buildings and receive information there. It's mainly to get people onto the island so people have a picture and a feeling of what this incredible property is. So that's what we want to do. But I do want to caution, or not caution, but just say we'll retain the right to call it off because of weather. And if all of you have probably been there, it's a tough place to go and to get on and off. I was there yesterday, and it was, it's pretty rugged to find a way to get the boat moored. And the people with kayaks, even though it was rough, it was easier for them to get on than it was for me with a very small boat. So that's what we want to do. I talked with Sam today, and an alternative would be if we can't, these would be like we would drop people, and the next hour we'd bring more over and then start bringing people back if we use this Sam's boat, which will carry probably about 15 people.
And that
so
boat can come up on the shore there without either in high or low tide. Are you timing this so that it doesn't matter?
yeah, it's
right?
going to be
Go right
right
on.
around
High tide.
high
right?
tide. Yeah. And we'd probably come into where the kayakers
Mhm.
come in at that point. And so we'd have people on the, at the waterfront and then people on the boat. But again, what we thought is if it doesn't work weather-wise, like it's just too rough to land, Sam said, let's take them around the island. Let's
Right.
show them. We can get in close. We can talk about it. It won't be quite the same, but I think we can carry on, again, given that it's not a pouring down hurricane day.
Right.
So,
Right.
so anyway, that's what we would like to do and
Okay.
wanted to. Oh, yeah. And the other thing is, we would like to put a table down on the dock and work with Steve Pixley about where we could do that. And that was just be to hand out information and to provide a little more information to people. We're not going to be pressing people for big donations, but there'll be a donation jar or something
Toll
there
booth.
if people want to donate. So,
Well, and I noticed you had an information table at the Art Walk on Thursday.
Yeah.
So you're trying
Yeah.
to raise awareness and.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're trying to raise awareness. It's such a beautiful place and
Any questions
needs a
from
lot
the
of
board?
support.
Sounds great.
No, it sounds like a
Thanks.
great idea. And clearly there's a lot of people who have never been to the
Yeah.
lighthouse and what better means.
Mhm.
Yeah. And a free boat ride. Great
Mhm.
idea.
Yeah.
Will
And-
there be access to the buildings or will you keep the buildings closed?
No, I think I would let people in and, as long as they're safe, it'd be good to see what's there and what the condition is as well. So we've been going out and trying to clean a few things up and kind of get ready for it.
Mhm.
And we'll continue doing that, but it'll be what it is. That's the point of it. This is what we have. It's a wonderful place.
Yeah.
You'll give a speech about, this is a rustic environment and you're doing this at your own risk and, it's not for the faint of heart sometimes. And
Yeah.
we let people into the upstairs now of the Conway House at the Historical Society. And it was this big debate for a little while and whether it was safe or not. And
Mhm.
we've settled on, telling people it's not exactly safe, but you can go if you want. And,
And-
um,
Yeah, and we're going to be doing that as well when we communicate, hey, this is open and it's really first come, first serve. And when we have 50 people, that'll be closed off. But our goal is to keep doing this. We wanted to do a couple of them this year and these dates kind of worked for us. And it would be something I would see getting people out there who can't otherwise.
Okay,
Great.
thank you, Michael.
great. Thank you.
Do we need a
Okay. I think we need
motion
a
to approve that request?
Yes, it's an action item. You're right.
Yeah.
So moved.
I'll second it. Yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none?
Well, the only
Oh,
piece
yeah.
that I do wonder about is should we have some sort of insurance indemnification based on who owns that island, Camden? If someone falls and breaks a leg going
I think we
around the
already do.
lighthouse.
We already
kind
have,
of-
it's a town
The
park
Tort Claims
already.
Act.
Yeah,
We're-
I mean,
And the Tort
Yeah.
Claims Act.
if somebody kayaks, if somebody goes out in their kayak and slips and breaks their leg, we're already in
We're
that
already
situation.
indemnified.
So,
We're already protected. And if somebody goes out there and reports a
We are
pothole
protected.
and then we don't repair it within 24 hours, then we could be in trouble. But
Okay.
Yeah.
I just,
A
I
good
didn't
point.
know.
It is the first thing that pops into mind. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? All right. Go forth and enjoy. Thank you, Michael.
You can all sign up. We'll put it on our website and we'll be communicating it.
All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
I'll second it.
Second, any objections? All right.
All those in
All those in favor? 8:39, good timing.